to feed my family. Hold it down.
I don't want to work in Washington, D.C. I have a good job. I have a great life. But I want to help these kids so that we can end the chronic disease epidemic. And I went to President Trump, and I said to President Trump, if you want my help, I am here to do it. And we worked together for a while. But I started to understand that MAGA, for most Democrats, MAGA, Make America Great Again, means going back to the 1950s. And they say it's racist because we didn't have civil rights in our country at that time for Black Americans. They say it's dictatorial and it's against freedom of speech because that was the era of Joe McCarthy. And they say it's isolationist and retrograde. But the more that I get to know you and the more that I get to know Donald Trump, I understand what MAGA really means. And I asked Donald Trump about what he thought MAGA meant, what era we were going to make America great again. And he said, the era of your uncle, John F. Kennedy. And that was the era when America was at its apex, here and abroad. We were the wealthiest country in the world. We owned half the wealth on the face of the earth. The American middle class was the greatest economic engine in the history of mankind. We had a robust union movement that was making sure that American labor had dignity and good jobs. We had virtually every American believed in the accessibility of the American dream, which meant at that time that if you worked hard, if you played by the rules, you could afford to buy a home. You could take a summer vacation. You could raise a family, and you could put something aside for your retirement on a single job. There's no American now in my kids' generation, sorry, my duck is calling. There's no American now in my kids' generation who believes that that contract applies to them. This is a demoralized generation. In 2013, there was a poll in which Americans under 35 were asked, are you proud of the United States of America? And 85% of them said yes. The same poll taken 6 months ago, only 17% said yes. We have an entire generation that is alienated, that is disaffected, that has lost faith, hope for their own futures, and has lost their pride in our country. And to me, that was one of the most tragic data points that I learned about in this election. We have kids, the greatest asset that I had as a boy was this intense pride that I had about the United States of America. And we were, at that time, a moral authority around the world. The people all around the world wanted to be in America. They looked to us for leadership. They knew the difference between leadership and bullying. They didn't want us making wars. My uncle was asked by one of his best friends, what do you want on your gravestone? And he said, he kept the peace. He said the primary job of a president of the United States is to keep our country out of war. He said that he didn't want African children and Latin American children and Asian children, when they heard about the United States of America, to think of a man with a gun. He wanted them to think of a Peace Corps volunteer. He wanted them to think of the Kennedy Milk Program, which gave nutrition to tens of millions of hungry children around the world. He wanted them to think of USAID and the Alliance for Progress that put America on the side of the poor, not just in this country, but all around the world. And those are the same ambitions that Donald Trump has. Today, my uncle kept any American soldier during his term in office from ever going to die in combat. Today, as a result of that commitment, there are more statues to John Kennedy, more boulevards named after him, more avenues, more universities, more hospitals in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and any other US president, and probably more than all other presidents combined. And that is a good foreign policy, to have the world love us. Don't you want a foreign policy where the rest of the world loves and admires the United States of America? And when he says, make America great again, that's what he's talking about. And one of the things that we learned at home is that we not only had to be virtuous as a nation, we had to be virtuous as individuals. We had to, for example, tell the truth when we did something wrong. So one time I hit a baseball through my mom's window and broke it. And my dad said to me, before you answer this question, I want you to remember what George Washington did. He cut down the cherry tree. This is a story every American knew at that time. His father asked him who cut it down, and he said, I did. He always admitted when he was wrong. And now the Democratic Party has given us a loophole around that mandate. All you have to know is 7 words, and you never have to admit to doing anything wrong again. And do you know what those 7 words are? I was born in the middle class. Oh. So repeat after me, I was born in the middle class. So the next time your boss asks you why you were late for work, what are you gonna say? And the next time your wife asks you why you didn't take out the garbage, what are you gonna say? And the next time your landlord asks you for the rent check, what are you gonna say? That's all you have to know, and you don't have to answer any question. And we know why she didn't want to answer that question, because there's no good answer to it. By every indicia in which we measure the welfare of our economy, the Trump administration excelled, and the Biden-Harris administration has failed us. Inflation on average during the Trump administration was held under 7%. Now it's at 20%. Gross rents have almost doubled. Mortgages have more than doubled in just 3.5 years. Groceries have gone up. Gasoline has gone up. Electricity has gone up. Healthcare has gone up. Do you know the only thing that's gone down? Wages. So though that is not a success story, and I don't blame her for not wanting to answer that question. It was a question that was almost impossible for her to answer truthfully and still walk out of that debate. So the Democratic Party that I grew up with, the Democratic Party of John F. Kennedy, of Robert Kennedy,
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage, Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us, and I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
That's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this, because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. the people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having, on the short end of the stick, in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. "Thank you, President Xi," exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, "I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks." But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, We were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban, because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter, because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to, because, again, 2 things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government, and we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
television. But the people on television saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
here. Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in. And all over the world, crime is down. All over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. a complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking, because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking? She's been against it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. And a very special hello to Michigan, we're going to bring back your car industry. And it's great to be back in this beautiful state with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. Before we begin, I want to just repeat something that just came out over the wires. It's big stuff by the patriots of immigration and customs enforcement. You know what that is? That's ICE. These are tough guys. They're almost as tough as you. You guys, look at this guy. You guys. Not quite. No, these are tough people. They love our country, but you need them. But for the first time ever, we have specific numbers. They were just released. And it's about the people that crossed the border illegally under Kamala Harris. That she's even running is frankly ridiculous, okay? That's not a president. That's not a president. She went to the border today because she wanted to see if she could. She's getting killed on the border. And she went to the border. This was a bad day because somebody just released the numbers that came out through ICE. According to this brand new data, never seen before, over 13,099 convicted murderers have crossed the border and are free to roam and kill in our country. These are convicted murderers. These are people that were in jail. Now, I've been talking about this for 3 years. When I heard they were opening up the border, 3.5 years, I said, if they open the border, because I know the people on the other side, and they're smart, savvy people, you know, they're at the top of their game. Our leaders are not at the top of their game at all. They never were, actually. But our leaders are not. These are smart people. And these are countries from all over the world, 13,000, more than 13,000. Convicted murderers have been let out of jail, and they're roaming our streets, their country all over. And every state is a border state. You know what that means, right? Every state, because they fly them in. Can you imagine? They fly them in. These people are, I'm starting to think they're stupid. They're just stupid. So that's one, as well, and other numbers came out along with it. Over 13,000. They do. You know that. You better elect him your senator, I'll tell you. As well as and these are specific numbers. That's why when they rounded them out, I said, I don't want them rounded out. I want the exact number, as well as 25,272 illegals convicted of rape, sex offense, or sexual assault and in jail. These are people all in jail because they don't want them in jail. They're too expensive, and they don't want them in their countries. They're smarter than us. They give them to us. We're like a dumping ground. In total, 425,431 non-detained, meaning they're no longer in detention, meaning prison, non-citizens, convicted criminals from all over the world are right now at large in the United States of America, with another 222,141 illegals with pending criminal charges, and these are serious criminal charges for murder, for drugs being sold all over the world where many people have been killed, because those are the ones they put in jail. We don't do that over here. We give them a fine. You know, every drug dealer kills at least 500 people. Each drug dealer, him or her, kills 500 people. We do nothing about it. We find them. That's over 647,572 migrant criminals are in our country. It's a killing machine. It's a killing machine, and they're killing people all over our country. And Kamala said, remember, she said, oh, well, those people really don't kill like our criminals. No. These people make our criminals look like nice people. And I've been saying this from the beginning of the Harris-Biden disaster. It's no longer an administration, because what they've done to our country with this is inexcusable. I guess some egghead maybe said, oh, it's wonderful to release people, and it sounds so nice. We're releasing migrants into our country. But these are killers. These are people at the highest level of killing. They'd cut your throat, and they won't even think about it the next morning. They won't even think about it. And these people are all over the place, and they're killing people. I could go through the stories, and I won't. But all over, sometimes I do. They come up, they grab young girls, and they slice them up right in front of their parents. Nobody who's allowed to do this, and nobody who's allowed this to happen to our country is fit to be the president of the United States. I mean that, too. I mean it. Anybody that's stupid. I've been saying this now for almost 4 years because we built hundreds of miles of border wall. We had the best record at the border of any president of anybody, at least in recorded history. Tom Homan would get up. Brandon Judd gets up. They all get up and they say there's never been a president like Trump. But Tom Homan said it today. He said in his lifetime, we had the best border that we've ever had under Trump, and now we have the worst border that any country has ever had. But it's bad timing for Kamala. Nobody knows her as Harris. You ever use the name Harris? Say Harris. Nobody knows who the hell I'm talking about when I say Harris. It's true. You say Harris, they don't know who the hell I'm talking about. So I won't bother with the Harris. It's a nice name. I know a couple of people named Harris. But with her, you say Harris, they say, who is that? So we say Kamala. But it's bad time. She's incompetent. Have you seen her? She goes into an interview with Oprah, and she can't answer any questions. She can't answer any questions. This is bad timing for Kamala to show up today at the border. She didn't go there for 4 years. Now today she shows up, and these numbers got released. Somebody doesn't like her, I think. And the fake news. So I don't know, maybe she's already gone, I doubt it, but she's went to the border today. She wants to see if she could salvage, make up some lies, like she said about the border bill that Trump stopped. Let me tell you, number one, I didn't stop it. The senator stopped it. But that's the worst bill ever drawn. It's a waste of paper, and she doesn't need a bill. All she has to do is fly back to Washington and get this president that we have, if he's still president. I don't even know who the hell is president. Is he president? This is not exactly President Xi. He runs his country a little differently, although they do go after their political opponents pretty violently. I will say that. But they don't go after the murderers, the drug dealers. Get this guy to sign a little dot. You sign right over the little dots. And you sign your name, Joe Biden, and you say on it to Border Patrol, close the border, and they close the border. That's what I did. Our border is open. Our border is open. Nobody can believe it. And I've been saying that the people coming in, I know these leaders so street smart, and I would have been worse than them because actually Venezuela still has some people in their jails. I would have had everybody out into the United States. They probably ran out of buses and planes. But the rest of them are coming, don't worry about it. But all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world, they're coming from the Congo and Africa. A lot of people coming from the Congo and Africa. And these are serious criminals coming out of jails, mostly from jails. A lot of gang members, they take their gangs off the street. Like in Caracas, Venezuela, the criminals have all been brought to the United States. Their crime rate is down in Caracas. In fact, I suggest if I lose, I'll tell you what, it's possible because they cheat. That's the only way we're going to lose, because they cheat. They cheat like hell. If we lose, the next time we're going to have the same group of people in Caracas, Venezuela, because it's much safer than any place in our country if she wins. Much safer. So let's go to Caracas
It was a very unsafe place. Now because in Venezuela, their crime is down 72% because they've taken their criminals, their gang members, their drug dealers, and they've brought them into the United States of America, and they're also releasing almost all of their prisoners. Soon the almost will be gone. Their prisons will be empty. Their mental institutions and insane asylums will be empty. They're dumping them in our country, and I never had proof. And those fake news reporters back there, they say, Trump, what would he know about that? What would he know? You know why? It's common sense. We're the party of common sense, by the way, just so you know. Common sense. So these numbers just came out. Nobody's ever seen these numbers for years. Nobody's ever seen them. And probably some patriot in ICE or somebody just did something. They just said the country's going bad. You can't have a country like that. We have, think of it, murderers, convicted murderers in prison for life. Many get the electric chair or they get whatever their form of death penalty. These are convicted people for life are now in our country, and I can finally look at them and see, I say, I told you so to the fake news. These are hard, tough, vicious criminals that are free to roam in our country. And now, for the first time, I can say it, and, you know, I mean, I knew it before, when you have open borders, but they're dumping everybody in here. I knew it before, but these numbers are actually worse than I ever thought. They should have been released far earlier so that we could have done something about it. I wish we had them 3 years ago, but we didn't. And now we have a problem, and you can't have her as your president. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. She should resign in disgrace for what she's done to our country, not run for president. She was the border czar. She was the border czar. She was in charge. I don't even care about him. What the hell? No, he put her in charge, though. She was the border czar. Now she claims she wasn't the border czar, but she was in charge of the border. Call her what you want. 4 years ago, Kamala Harris inherited the most secure border in U.S. history. And as border czar, she then set the all-time record for illegal immigration into our country every single year. And many of these people were stone-cold criminals and murderers. She willfully and deliberately erased her own nation's borders, a crime so wicked as to defy description. As former ICE director and a great man, Tom Homan. Anybody know Tom Homan? Tom Homan, I say, is central casting for doing what he does better than anybody. Brandon Judd, Kuwait. We have great people. These Border Patrol guys, I got to know them all. They're great. They want to do their job. They could sit back and let it happen. They go crazy. They see what's happening to our country, and they're not allowed to do the job. But as Tom Homan just said, just put it out, I've worked with 6 presidents. I know all about police work, and I know all about policies work. I know what policies don't work. President Trump was a game changer, and we saved thousands of lives by securing the southern border. Biden and Harris took the most secure border in my lifetime. This is from Tom Homan. And unsecured it on purpose. So he unsecured the border. They did. I don't know why. They want the votes, they're dumb, or they want to destroy the country. That could be the only 3 things. They're dumb, they want to just have people destroy our country, or they want the votes. You know, they're trying to sign these people up to vote. That's the all-time insult. They are working full-time to sign these people, many of them murderers, to vote so they can cheat on the election, because that's what they do. And they vote against bills. Any bill that wants to secure the vote, the Democrats in Congress fight like hell so they can't get passed. Who would want a bill that says bad things happen with the vote? You want to secure your vote, whether you're a Democrat. Interesting, a lot of Democrats, not the politicians, want to have that. And they don't want to have sanctuary cities, by the way. They don't want it. Only the politicians want it for certain reasons. President Trump, Tom Homan said, was the greatest president in my lifetime. Thank you, Tom. This country was never better off than when he was president. He was unprecedented in his success on the border, and it saved many lives. He was an out-of-the-box thinker, and he got the job done like nobody else could do the job. So that's from Tom Homan. Thank you. I might as well read it. I might as well tell you, because they'll never tell you that. They'll never tell you that, right? They'll never tell you that, Mike. By contrast, Kamala Harris betrayed her oath. She let our cities fail to violent gangs. She let our American sons and daughters be raped and murdered at the hands of vicious monsters. She let American communities be conquered. They're conquering your communities. You go out to Aurora in Colorado, where they're taking over with AK-47s. Real estate. They're in the real estate development business, just like me, except I never got to use guns to do it. They're taking over real estate. And Kamala turned cherished small towns into blighted refugee camps. And you take a look at what's happening in Springfield, Ohio, and the mayor is a nice man. In fact, I think he's an independent or a Republican. And he doesn't know what to do, and he doesn't know what to say. He wants to be nice. 32,000 people. You have 50,000 residents. Beautiful place, beautiful, nice town, no crime, no nothing. They now have 32,000 people dumped into the town, and he's trying to say, we're working very hard to make it comfortable for them. No, those people have to be taken out and brought back to the country from where they came. I'm sorry. The mayor said, we're looking for interpreters. It's so hard to find interpreters because nobody speaks English, right? So we're looking for interpreters. No. You're looking for people that will remove them and bring them back safely to their country. It's not fair. It's not sustainable by any country. What's happening to us in the United States, millions and millions of people, 21 million plus, have been dumped into the United States, and many of them are murderers. Many of them are horrible criminals. What Kamala Harris has done is unforgivable. It's a crime, what she did. It's got to be criminal. There's no greater act of disloyalty than to extinguish the sovereignty of your own nation, and that's what she's done. She's ruined our nation. She's ruined our nation. And, you know, I've always talked about this, and I've talked about it strongly, but I'm just realizing as I'm talking right now, and not even going off a teleprompter, because the teleprompter's not tough enough, I'm saying, and by the way, isn't it nice to have a president that doesn't need a teleprompter? But I've never had, thank you. Boy, what a group of people we have. It's a joke. We're laughed at all over the world for our leadership. But I just got this information, so I've never really spoken about this because this is the first time where we have these numbers with 13,000 convicted, jailed murderers, tougher than any of our criminals. We have only one good thing about this, is they make our criminals look like very nice people. These are hardened, horrible criminals, and we have to get them the hell out of our country because they're ruining the fabric of our country. Kamala is directly responsible for the tens of thousands of crimes committed by illegal migrants that she set free into our country. They didn't ask for a name. They didn't ask for a registration number. And many of them don't even have names or registration numbers. They just pour into our country. She has no idea where they're from parts unknown. She's responsible for every bloody crime scene, every funeral, every orphan child. And the great Mark Levin called me a little while ago and said, ask them, because he couldn't believe the numbers either. He said, ask them to ask Kamala, has she ever attended one funeral of the thousands and thousands of people that they've already killed? So I ask you that question. I give that to the fake news so that they can ask that question, because she's right now at the border giving a press conference. She doesn't give a press conference. She doesn't take questions. She'll make a little statement and then run away. She delivered these horrors. She unleashed these atrocities, and blood is on her hands at a level that probably nobody's ever seen in this country before. But on November 5th, Kamala Harris will be held accountable for these crimes. She will be sent back to California. And we will close the border. We will stop the invasion. We will begin the largest deportation operation in American history. And we have no choice but to vote. Have no choice. We have no choice. Our country is in trouble. Like, it's a mess. It's a mess, including the inflation that was caused by them by energy and by their spending. But the inflation caused by them by energy. Remember when energy went way down, the production after by the way, I got more votes than any sitting president in history. I was told if I got the same number of votes as the first time, 63 million, you can't lose, sir. We got many millions of votes more than that. Nobody's ever gotten more votes, sitting president. And they beat us by a whisker. It's the only thing they're good at. They're good at cheating in elections. They're good at nothing else, believe me. They're certainly not good at policy. By the way, she changed every policy. She had 15 policies that she changed. She was against fracking. She was against everything. And she changed everything because you couldn't get elected, right? And she was the last one. She was the last one online. You know, whether you like Biden or not, he got 14 million votes and he won the primaries. And then they came to him, Nancy Pelosi, crazy Nancy. She came to him. She's nuts. By the way, did you see yesterday, 2 days ago? So I'm not much into this stuff, but Visa crashed because the government went after. The government filed a big suit against Visa. Nancy and her husband sold their stock the day before it was announced. Nancy Pelosi. So why don't we get some AG somewhere like in a Republican territory? And why don't we get them to do a little investigation? Sold the Visa stock. Are you listening? They're probably turning off the cameras now. They don't want to report. The day before, the government announced a major investigation, the biggest there is, can't get worse, into Visa. They sold it the day before. It's amazing, isn't it, huh? I'm proud to say I think I'm the only politician that's lost. I've lost billions on it. I don't give a damn. I knew I'd lose a lot. I didn't know I was going to lose that much. I wanted to lose. I could have made a fortune. I could have been like Hunter, sell paintings for $500,000. I would have gotten much more. Say, you got to give me $5 million for that painting. I haven't painted before, but I have a lot of natural talent. I'm proud to say that, I mean, I'm not the only one, but I guess I figured I'd lose a lot, but I didn't know I was going to lose that much, but it doesn't matter to me because this is much bigger. This is a much bigger calling. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. I don't care. Before going further, I want to send our love and support to all of the people in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, and all of the other states who have been really hit hard by that very large hurricane. That was that big one, a very large hurricane this week. We're with you all the way, and if we were there, we'd be helping you, and you'll be okay. 39 days from now, we're going to win Michigan. We're going to defeat Comrade Kamala Harris, who's a Marxist communist. And quite simply, we are going to make America great again. And make America great. So I didn't want to go off on a tangent, but I did want to bring up a little thing called crime. But we're really here today to talk about bringing jobs and manufacturing back to the great state of Michigan and really to our country, our whole country. And I want to thank, just met him, a great gentleman. He came here, he said, because of me in 2017 from the Netherlands. Great guy, great successful businessman. Bodewijn Hauser, thank you very much. He's a big guy, too, and his beautiful wife. Stand up, please. Please stand up. Good-looking couple. Good-looking. Good man, right? Yes? They're all saying, they better say yes. They won't be here tomorrow if they don't. No, he's great. He's done a great job. He actually said he came here because of me. He came to the country because of me, opened this, and it was very successful. And I imagine still is, but he said it's a big difference now between the first days during the Trump administration for 4 years, 3 years that you were open during the Trump administration. Now he says the interest rates are way up and inflation has been very devastating, which it is for everybody, but we'll make it even more successful than the first 3 or 4 years you had, okay? Or more successful. And for generations, this state was the beating heart of American industry, and you gave the world General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Dow Chemical, General Dynamics, and other giants of American industry and might, and then you see what's happened to so many of them because of stupid politicians largely, and stupid people that ran the companies into the ground. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. It doesn't take much. It only takes one bad executive at the top. But then foolish and corrupt politicians forced Michigan workers to watch as the jobs in the factories were leached from Grand Rapids and Detroit and Lansing and Flint and sent to foreign lands way far away, not only China in particular, but all over. But with your vote, we're going to reclaim America's manufacturing power. And basically, we're going to do what they do. We have to get the senators to agree. I think we have no problem with that, right? We're going to get the senators to allow us to do it. We're actually allowed to do it as president. We want to make it permanent. We're going to bring jobs, wealth, and pride back to Grand Rapids, back to Detroit, back to Milwaukee, and all throughout the Midwest. We're going to bring it back. And to our incredible auto workers here in Michigan, I'm pinpointing you for greatness. I'm pinpointing you because the industry has been decimated. And right now, as we speak, they're building big plants. They wouldn't do it when I was president. They're building big, giant auto plants in Mexico, owned and financed by China. And they think they're going to come out and they're going to build cars and they're going to sell them into our country and they're going to destroy Michigan and all these other places. Not going to happen because we'll put 100 to 200% tariff on every car coming across the Mexican border. And we'll tell them and we're going to be strong, the only way they'll get rid of that tariff is if you build the plant in the United States, not if you build it in Mexico. Which is what China and others do. If Elon wants to sell a car, by the way, Elon Musk gave his total endorsement. Elon, he gave me the greatest, beautiful, most beautiful. He said, we're not going to have a country left if Trump doesn't get in. And you know what I'm going to let Elon do? Unless you people disagree, I'm going to get Elon, and he's great at this. He's going to be our cost cutter. I think he can save trillions. right? He wants to do it so badly. I don't think I can get him full-time because he's a little bit busy sending rockets up and all the things he does. But he's so much into that. He said the waste in this country is crazy, and we're going to get Elon Musk to be our cost cutter. He's going to do it for zero. He doesn't want anything. But he wants to see this country be great, and he'll do it. And having his endorsement is a great endorsement. We have some really great endorsements, I will tell you that. But we'll get him involved, and mostly on that side of it, and it's going to be incredible what he'll be able to do without hurting anybody. Just waste. It's waste, fraud, and abuse. Do you ever hear the expression waste, fraud, and abuse? You get rid of that, everybody lives much better. We have a country that's really strong again. If I'm not elected, you will have no auto industry. Your industry is being taken from you like candy from a baby. I see it happening with the all-electric, and I'll tell you, electric cars are wonderful, but not for everybody. I will end the mandate on day one for all electric cars. And there's a great place, and they have a place. Like Tesla and others, they're fantastic, but they have a place, but not for everybody. They don't go far, they cost more. And they're made in China mostly because that's where they have the materials. We have something that's even better. We have a thing called liquid gold under our feet, and we're going to use our liquid gold in the form of gasoline for our cars. Oil and gas, we have liquid gold. We have more liquid gold than any country anywhere in the world. We have more liquid gold, not even close. We have more than Russia. We have more than Saudi Arabia. We have more than anybody. You know, I approved something, Anwar. I got it done. Ronald Reagan couldn't get it done. I love Ronald Reagan, but he couldn't get it done. He tried so hard. It's in Alaska. It's one of the biggest finds maybe ever, maybe as big as Saudi Arabia. Nobody really knows, but it's in that category. One of the biggest in the world. I got it done. I worked my ass off, and I got it done. And Biden came in. He didn't know what the hell he was signing anyway. And he terminated it. Can you believe this? This would have taken care of all of Asia, would have brought money in. We could have paid down our debt. We could have been unbelievable. We would have reduced. I gave you the biggest tax cuts in history. I would have given you a bigger tax cut, and we still will. Biden rejected it. They ended it in his first day in office, but we'll get it done quickly. It was already passed by Congress. They didn't do that. They just ended it. And the people of Alaska aren't happy, but that's a national thing. And when you get into those numbers, that's national. It would have been so great for our country, but we'll get it done very quickly. Under my plan, American workers will no longer be worried about losing your jobs to foreign nations. Foreign nations will be worried about losing their jobs to America, because we're going to take a lot of those companies back, a lot of new companies coming in. I want German car companies to be American car companies. I want them to build their cars in this country, not in Germany. I want Asian electronics companies to become Michigan electronics companies. And I want every manufacturer that has left us to be filled with regret, and you're going to become racing back after we do what we're doing. And here is the deal that I'll be offering every major company and manufacturer all over the earth, and they're going to all come in because we're the pot of gold. But we're not going to be the pot of gold forever if we don't be careful. We're not going to be. It's going to end, and we're not going to let it end. We will give you the lowest taxes, the lowest energy costs, because we have the energy, the lowest regulatory burden. I cut regulations more than any other president in the history of our country. And we'll give you free access to the biggest and best market on the planet. That's us. But only if you make your product here in America and hire American workers. If you don't make your product here, then you will have to pay a tax or tariff when you send your product into the United States. And we will take in hundreds of billions of dollars into our treasury and use that money to benefit the American citizens. So with China as an example, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes and tariffs. No other president took in 10 cents. In fact, they left it on because they can't get it off, because it's taken in so much money that the Biden people, I'm sure he doesn't know about it too much, but the Biden people said, we can't get rid of these tariffs. They're making too much money. But what they're also doing, maybe more importantly, their cars aren't coming in, and they're not destroying Detroit and South Carolina, and North Carolina, and Georgia, and all the other places that are involved with making autos and parts. They're not coming in, and we made a fortune on it. And now all we're doing is take interest in it. We were ready to do that, and then we had a strange election result. We're not going to let that happen again. In my first term, I ended NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, and replaced it with the USMCA, the best trade deal ever made. I withdrew from the job-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership. By the way, if that deal would have been approved, it was negotiated by Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him, Barack Hussein? Remember Rush Limbaugh? Rush? We love Rush. He used to go, Barack Hussein Obama. Mr. Wall, would you please stand up? Look at this guy. I got to get a suit like that. He's a successful guy. He's been to 293 rallies. This isn't a rally. This is a workers' meeting talking about bringing our jobs back into the country, which will go so fast. But he's been great. Have I done a good job? Yes? You better say yes. That's it. Thank you very much. Great guy. I renegotiated Barack Obama's Korea trade deal, which was a disaster, to restore the protective tariff on foreign pickup trucks. You know, the pickup trucks is where the car companies make most of their money, because we put on a tariff and we kept the tariff, and therefore they can't compete with us in our country. And we actually make pickup trucks in this country. If that would have gone, called the chicken wire tax, if that would have gone out, you would not have any trucks being made in this country. I stood up to China like never before, placing a 27.5% tariff on all Chinese automobiles, saving the U.S. auto industry from total obliteration. The cars don't come in because they can't compete. And for furniture makers in North Carolina and other places, and in particular right now, a place called Grand Rapids. You know, I have great memories of Grand Rapids because I came to Grand Rapids, I made a speech, I went home, and we ended up winning the election in 2016, right? But I put a 22% tariff on Chinese furniture. They were destroying North Carolina. They were destroying your furniture areas where you have a lot. And just absolutely destroying. And you make better furniture, by the way. I bought a lot of furniture. I'd go down to, with hotels, as I built hotels, I'd buy furniture. I'd go do it myself. People don't believe it. Well, you really buying furniture? Yeah, I'm buying furniture, a lot of it. But I'd go, and it was like North Carolina was the furniture capital of the world. And then it was decimated by China because politicians allowed that to happen. It should have never been allowed to happen. We're going to bring all those companies back, and then we're putting a tariff on China. We're selling their furniture here so that these people can make their furniture. They're better than anyone else. I bought some of that Chinese furniture, and people would sit down in a chair, and the chair would break, and they'd end up on their ass, and then they'd sue me. I never had that with North Carolina. I never had it with Grand Rapids. No, it's true. This was not good. Ladies and gentlemen, the finest hotel in the world. They open, they end up getting a little damaged. They sit down to dinner at the beautiful dining table, and they end up getting damaged. Sir, you have a problem. The chairs break. That's a big problem. The centerpiece of my plan for a manufacturing renaissance will be a 15% made in America tax rate. So, pretty simple. So listen to how simple it is and how good it will be. It'll totally turn our country around, and we'll be a profit-making machine instead of a disaster like we are right now with $36 trillion in debt. So I brought the business tax rate from 39% or higher down to 21%. So I had it was 39, but it was actually 50 and over 50 if you include state and city taxes in some places, like hopefully New York is going to be able to reduce their taxes, but it was very high. So I brought it down from 39% down to 21%, all the way down to 21%. People said there's no way, and I got it approved by Congress. Can you believe that? Now they're trying, the Democrats want to raise it, and they don't know. It's hard to say would you please vote for me to raise the tax? They're going to raise it up to 39 or 40% or maybe even 50%. You better not let these people get in office. They're going to destroy what we built. And we did more business and created more jobs than ever before in history. With a 21% rate as opposed to a 39% rate, we took in more money, much more money, at the lower rate that we did because we had jobs like never before. We had business like never before. Maybe you came here because of that. That might be the reason, come to think of it. Thank you. You told me that. 2017, yeah, you probably came because of the tax and the one-year depreciation. And you buy something and you can depreciate. Oh, you are a smart one. You're a smart one. Come to think of it, I would imagine that's why. And we're doing that again, the one-year depreciation. You buy equipment and you're allowed to write it off first year. But what it does is create tremendous jobs. But now I'm doing a step further. I'm going to bring down the 21% to 15%, but only, and we will be the most competitive in the world. Don't forget, the world, like a gentleman like this can take his company and go to the Netherlands and go to a lot of other places. They all want your business. So if you start charging them too much, they're going to leave. They're going to say, that's a nice plant, bye-bye, because they're great business people, and they're going to go where they can get the deal. 15% will be almost as low as there is in the world. And yet, you got to remember, only if you manufacture your product right here in the USA do you get the 15% rate. So how cool is that? Michigan will be hotter than it ever was in its heyday. It'll be hotter than it ever was. You have to manufacture the product. Otherwise, you stay at 21%, which is okay, too. But if you manufacture your product here, you drop all the way down to 15%, making it just about as compelling as there is in the world. Some are a little bit lower, but it's not this country. But it'll be among the most competitive in the world. Then I'm imposing tariffs on your competition from foreign countries, which would come in and take your businesses as soon as you built them. And we're going to put tariffs on, so now you won't be able to worry about having somebody come in and steal your plant and steal your business and close your place and lose your workers, and the workers are out of jobs. All your car factories are going to be coming back. You'll have more jobs than you've ever had in this state. Your car industry will be as big relatively as it was 60 years ago when you were like dominant. It's not dominant anymore. This is why people in countries are all after Trump. This is why. You know, the only one that has shots fired at them, that throbbing feeling, right? The only one are consequential presidents. When I do these things, I've got a lot of enemies out there. I've got a lot of enemies. You know, Germany liked, as an example, Barack Hussein Obama better than me, even though the people actually like me much better. Because you know what? He didn't charge him anything. He let him rip off our country. All presidents let our country be ripped off, and that's why we're in the mess that we're in. But me, no. But that's why I have, to put it mildly, in particular, Iran. You know, don't forget, with Iran, they were the sponsor of terror like nobody else was the sponsor of terror. And they were broke under the Trump administration because I put all sorts of sanctions on. I put all sorts of countries couldn't buy their oil. or they couldn't do business in the United States. And all I wanted was one thing, because I wasn't looking to hurt them. I know many Iranian people, they're great people, very smart people, but I didn't want them to have a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon. Very simple ask. You can do whatever you want. You're going to be strong. You're going to get big and beautiful. Can't have a nuclear weapon and destroy the world. Can't have it. You can't have a nuclear weapon. The power of nuclear is so monumental. You just can't let that happen. And it wasn't going to happen. And there was no Hezbollah that was getting money. They had no money. Hamas had no money. The terror groups, 28 different terror groups, had no money. Nobody had any money. And during the 4 years of the Trump administration, we had no terror. We had no wars against other countries, expensive, never-ending, stupid wars like we had under other presidents. I won't say which one, including Republicans, including Republican presidents, right? Goes in, blows out the Middle East, blows up the Middle East, comes back, you get nothing except death. You get death all over the place, death and hatred. Actually, they should like me more than anybody ever, but you had no wars under Trump except I defeated ISIS, which had already begun. I defeated ISIS, took 100% of the ISIS caliphate, 100%. I was told it was going to take 5 years. I did it in 4 weeks. We have the greatest military in the world, but you have to understand, you can't be so politically correct. But we did it in 4 weeks. ISIS was gone, 100% of the ISIS caliphate. And some of you have had the story, but I don't have enough time to tell you the story because I have to be someplace else making the same damn speech in a little while. I'll tell you the story the next time. I promise. I'll tell you the story, Mike, the next time. Will you come up here, Mr. Senator? Come up here real fast. Come on. I got to get you up. This is a man who's going to be one of the best senators, toughest senator, and great for you. And I hear your poll numbers are looking good. Will you say a quick hello so I don't have to go through this process in 15 minutes?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Well, thank you, Mr. President, for being here. How about that? And I can tell you, I'm looking at his teleprompter. He's not even close to watching that teleprompter. But I want to tell you this, Mr. President. One thing we know here in Michigan, with your plans to make sure that border is secure, with your plans to make sure the tax rate allows us to be competitive, with your plan to make energy independent here in America and bring down our gas prices and our cost of groceries, these folks right here were ahead of you. There is more common sense on that dais than there is in every committee room back in Washington, D.C. And I'll give you a little, we had some hot off the press information yesterday, Mr. President, 5,000 auto dealers. Your opponent, Kamala Harris, has been saying it really wasn't an EV mandate. 5,000 auto dealers who are feeling the heat from this EV mandate said, nope, you're killing our business, you're killing the automobile industry, you must end the EV mandate. With you in Washington, we're gonna get that done. Thanks for being here, Mr. President.
He's doing great. You got to vote for him. He's doing great. And Tudor, thank you very much. Great job. You did a great job. And Tudor, thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Great job. Nice things. You did a great job this morning on television. I appreciate it very much. Nice things. Tudor Dixon, everybody. Thank you very much. But if Kamala Harris gets in, every single manufacturing job in the state is going to Mexico. Every single manufacturing job in the state is going to Mexico or going to China. First of all, the tax queen, Kamala, is demanding a 33% First of all, the tax queen, on all domestic demanding a 33% tax hike. It's going to be much higher than that, by the way. Next, she wants the largest capital gains tax. It's going to be much higher than that, by the way. Next, she wants the largest capital gains tax. And then she's promising a brand new wealth confiscation tax. And then she's promising a brand new wealth confiscation tax, capital gain. That means if you realized capital gain. That means that if you're Company's doing great. That means that if you're really valuable, but you might be a little tight on cash, and your company's gotten really valuable, but you might be a little tight on cash. You do an appraisal of what your company is worth, and you have to pay a tax on it. You do an appraisal of what your company is worth, and you have to pay a tax on it. So now you go to a bank and you borrow the money. Can you imagine that? Unrealized goes out of business. Unrealized. In other words, you don't sell. Can you imagine that? Unrealized. Company got more valuable. Unrealized. In other words, you don't sell into your company, and that's the company got more valuable, and you're putting more and more money into your company, and that's okay. Those people are wiped out. There are a lot of people who have great wealth and depression like in 1929. Those people are wiped out. Other than that, I think it's quite a good idea. And it'll cause a depression like in 1929. Other than that, I think it's quite a good idea. Crazy. You know, her father is a Marxist. Crazy. You know, her father is a Marxist professor of economics. That's what she is. She's a Marxist. And we are not ready for a Marxist, and we will never be ready for a Marxist or a communist president, which is what she is. Leading by 2 points, 3 points. We should be leading by 50 points. We should be, how the hell? No, really, you would really say, why would anybody vote for her? She's destroying our country. What she did, outside of the nuclear disaster that these people will get us into, World War III, what she did on the border with these millions of murderers and criminals coming into our country, what she did on the border is the worst thing I think I've ever heard. I've never heard of anything like it. Never made sense. You're trying to figure out, you know, in business, you always like, and also, all of these people, she wants to defund the police. You know, she is one of the originals for defund the police. I say anybody that wants to defund the police is not qualified and shouldn't be allowed to even run for president of the United States. It's crazy. Comrade Kamala Harris also voted for a bill to impose a 100% ban on gas-powered cars and trucks, killing an estimated 200,000 U.S. auto jobs, including 40,000 auto jobs in Michigan, a death sentence for the Michigan economy. On day one, I will terminate Kamala's electric vehicle mandate, have to terminate it. And remember, the electric car has a great place, but not for everybody, okay? Not for everybody. No state in America will be permitted to ban gasoline engines. You want gasoline, nice, clean gasoline. We have the best, we have the most. You know, we have the most. You know, we want to use something that China has that we don't. It's crazy, right? They have certain minerals, they have control of what you need for the batteries, and we really don't, but we will have. A lot of what we have is stopped because of the environment. We have the minerals, but we don't have the environmental impact statements, but we'll make sure that that's going to go very quickly. We'll be able to do things that you never even thought. The only good thing about what happened with this 4-year disaster is that the people will understand when we fix our country, they'll be much more understanding than they would have been if we just went straight ahead and did it. Because this country has never been laughed at like a bunch of dopes. It's never been laughed at like it is right now. if Kamala wins, she will take your cars, take your money, take your guns. She wants to confiscate all guns, you know that. She just changed. That's one of the 15 policies that she changed. You know, she was totally in favor of taking everybody's, confiscating your gun. She changed that when she looked at some polls. The polls weren't looking too good. But they always revert back. Remember, she wants to take your economic opportunity, and she will absolutely kill the American dream for your children. You know, this country used to be about the American dream. They don't talk about that. They talked about it 4 years ago like never before, and they'll talk about it after November 5th. They're going to talk about the American dream. If I win, we will bring back the American dream, bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. So we're pleased to be joined with a few people. You just met Mike Rogers, and I wanted to have him up here separately because I will tell you, this guy is going to be a great senator. I picked him, even though he wasn't always particularly nice to me. He was paid a lot of money to say bad things about me, and that's okay. I fully understand it. But he's been great, and he's got great gravitas, and I think he might even be leading in the poll by a little bit. He's tough as hell, and he's good, and he's got the whole deal going, and I had a lot of choices. I had choices of people that were lovely to me, so nice, but I wanted to pick somebody that could be, number one, a great senator, number two, could win. And I just want to thank you. You've been really working hard, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate Tudor Dixon very much also, job you've done. And I think we have somebody here that I really have known for a long time and liked, and he's got a lot of good ideas. He's got a lot of good ideas, especially when it comes to women's health and health generally and the environment. I'm going to watch him a little bit on the environment, though, if you don't mind. Health, I don't think I'm going to watch him much at all because he's really good. So is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. here? Where is he? Where is he? He's here someplace. I know he's here someplace. RFK Jr. And he's a big part of what we're doing. And he does have great ideas. And getting a Kennedy to endorse a Trump Republican, that was a big deal, right? Good deal. He's a good man. He's a good man, and he's doing a real job, and he really does have some amazing views, to my way of, especially on health of people. Representatives John Molinar, where's John? He's around here. So, hi, John. Good job you're doing. Very good. Simple job in Congress, isn't it, John? Great job. Bill Heisinger. Bill, thank you, Bill. Good job. Looking good. Thank you, Bill. Great job. Jack Bergman. Jack, thank you, Jack. You got warriors. You got warriors here. Tim Wahlberg. Tim, thank you. Those people are so tremendous, the way they fight in Congress for you. Some don't. I mean, I will tell you, I could name some that won't, but I get myself into a lot of trouble. I'd name some Republicans that don't, but that group of people, they're warriors, so you're lucky to have them, and we're lucky to have you on my side, and thank you all very much. I've endorsed all of them, but they're great. Thank you very much, fellas. Real warriors. Michigan Senate Republican leader, Eric Nesbitt. Eric? Thank you, Eric. Good job. How are we doing? I hear good. Good. He said we're winning. That's good. We got to win. By the way, we win Michigan, we win the whole thing. Like in 2016. Got to vote. Also, House Republican leader Matt Hall. Matt. Thank you, Matt. Good. Good job. Thank you very much. Really good job. So I just want to thank them, but I want to thank everybody for being here today. It's been great. We have early absentee mail-in voting in your state. Starts this week. And if you have your ballot return it as soon as possible. And if not, get a ballot. Go out and get a ballot. Get as many Trump supporters as you can. You have a lot of people that sit back on the side. They agree with us. They agree with everything. What's not to agree? We want to stop people from killing everybody, you know? We have pretty basic policies, right? Low taxes, good education, strong border, all these different things, common sense things. We don't want to have, you know, in the Olympics, I don't know if you saw that, in the Olympics, I didn't even realize that they have women now, boxers, right? They're boxing for women. And a young, beautiful woman from Italy was boxing a person that transitioned. I've got the language perfect because if I say it a little bit incorrectly, it could mean the end of my campaign. We have to be extremely careful. Like if you dare to say, gee, that's a beautiful woman, you say it very nicely. That's the end of your campaign. You're out of politics. You have to be very careful. So I never see beauty anymore. I never see beauty. But you have this young woman from Italy, and she's fighting, and she's a champion fighter against women. And she's fighting in the first match of the Olympics. And she happens to get unlucky enough to meet somebody who transitioned from male to female and got into the Olympics. Two people did. 2 people were able to get in. By the way, I don't want to upset the story, but they each won a gold medal, okay? Different weight classes. 2 people transitioned from male to woman. Each one won the gold medal. But this young Italian girl, she's in there. She's going to show her mom how good she is. She's going to say, I don't care if he transitioned, Mom. I'm so tough. I can take her. I can take her. And she gets up and she puts up her fists. And he goes, for those that don't know too much about boxing, but I love it. I love UFC. I love Dana White. Has Dana White done a great job? Dana White, what a job. But she puts up her, and you know, a left is sort of to keep them away. She gets hit with a left, just a little dumb. Whoa. She looks around. Holy much, I just got hit by a horse. Goes back to her corner. Said, I've never seen this before. I've watched a lot of this stuff. And goes back to her corner, and they say, go out there, you can do it, go out there. Okay, I'll go out. It's like, what does Mike Tyson say? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? This is what happened to this young, beautiful lady. Beautiful lady. So she goes out, and she gets ready to go again. Boom, he hits her again, and she quits. She said, I can't get it. I've never been hit that hard. This was just like a little defensive punch. He ends up going on to win the gold medal, and another transitioned person won the gold medal. There were 2 of them, and they both won gold medals. In weightlifting, you got to see this. And for many, many years, they had a certain weight that stayed the same, and they'd put 1/8 of an ounce on one side, 1/8 of an ounce on the barbells, right, Mike? And they couldn't quite do it. The best female weightlifters. A guy comes along. Have you lifted before? They ask him or her. And he goes, not much, but a little bit. And he goes up to that barbell. Boom. Bing, 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 bing. And swimming, the same thing. The young lady, you saw this. She looks left and she sees all these beautiful athletes that she's swum against for 15 years. Beautiful, beautiful swimmers. She looks to the right, she sees the same thing, but next to her is a giant. A giant. He's got the reach of Wilt Chamberlain. Does anybody know? Wilt the Stilt, said to have the longest reach in history. He could dunk a ball without even leaving. He'd dunk a ball like this. He wouldn't even jump. But she looks at this guy's giant. And she never saw this. And they say, on your mark, get set, go. And she jumps, he jumps, everybody jumps. And as you know, she was badly injured. You know what happened to her, right? I told the story before. Windburn. He went by her so fast that she was horribly hurt. The windburn was horrible. No men playing women's sports. Very, very degrading. for 1 month. Right? You agree, Mike? So just to finish up, starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. We will have no tax on tips. No tax on tips. And boy, this is good for you because I know exactly where you make your money. I used to have to pay that damn overtime. It would cost a fortune. No tax on overtime. And no tax on Social Security for seniors. Because you've been devastated. You've been devastated by inflation, seniors. For the seniors, no tax on Social Security benefits. So that's it. And by the way, I want to explain something. The people that you see leaving, because nobody ever leaves. And when they do, I finish up quick, believe me. But I couldn't take pictures at the beginning. So I take them at the end sometimes. If I'm late, the plane gets late, you get delayed, lots of things happen. There's a little hurricane going on in Florida, as you know. And so what they do is they say, oh, please come up now at the end of my speech. I said, don't do that, because it looks like they're leaving, like your husband who owns this place. He's not leaving. He likes Trump very much. He made a lot of money because of Trump, right? Right? But these stupid people that are with me sometimes, they say, come on back. 30 people, they get up and they go back, and they're all lined up in the back waiting for me to take a picture because I couldn't do it before. Because I didn't want to keep you waiting because you're much more important than the wealthy people back there. You're much more important to me than those people. He said, don't do that anymore, but they don't learn their lesson. But we are going to be late for something, but who cares? And while working Americans catch up, we're going to put a temporary cap on credit card interest rates at 10%. Some people are paying 24%. You can't do it. So we're going to have a temporary cap on credit card, 10%. I will settle the war in Ukraine. I met with President Zelensky today. I had a good meeting. We had a great news conference afterwards. She met with him, I guess, yesterday. She didn't have a news conference because she can't do a news conference. She can't answer any questions. She's never going to make a settlement, believe me. And I will end the chaos in the Middle East, and I will prevent World War III, something I can do that nobody else is going to be able to do. I know them all. We will rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. We will keep the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. And right now, with these really stupid people we have running our government, it is under tremendous threat from losing its status as the world's reserve currency. If that happens, that's like losing a war. In many ways, it's worse. This is how we will end the era of inflation, mayhem, misery under Kamala and Crooked Joe, and unleash safety, prosperity, and peace for Americans of every race, religion, color, and creed. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it fast. You're going to have businesses flowing back to Michigan. Together, we will deliver low taxes, low regulations, low energy costs, low interest rates, and low inflation, so that everyone can afford the basics. It's called a car, groceries, and a home. Right now, you can't buy groceries. You can't buy anything. They're up so much, 50, 60, 70, 80%. We will stop the invasion, end migrant crime, support our police, strengthen our military. And I already rebuilt the military. They gave about $85 billion to Afghanistan, right? How about that one? In addition to losing 13 beautiful soldiers whose families I got to know and love and respect. And we left a lot of people behind. And you know, very importantly, we gave up a big Air Force base that cost us billions of dollars, named Bagram, billions of dollars, 1 hour away, forget Afghanistan, 1 hour away from where China builds its nuclear weapons. And we gave that up. These stupid people gave that up. You know who's occupying it now? China is occupying that base. Can you believe it? We're going to build a missile defense shield, much of it built in Michigan. We're going to keep critical race theory and transgender insanity out of our schools. And no men in women's sports again. We will defend the Second Amendment, restore free speech, and we will secure our elections. We are going to make our elections safe and secure. Everyone will prosper, every family will thrive, and every day will be filled with opportunity and hope. But for that to happen, we must defeat Comrade Kamala Harris. And we must stop her country-destroying liberal agenda once and for all. She's beyond liberal, by the way. Early absentee voting is underway, so go vote right now. You can do it right now. We want a landslide that is too big to rig, right? Too big to rig. And on November 5th, we will save our country. We will save our economy. It will go down as the most important day, November 5th, in the history of our country. We will rescue our middle class. We will reclaim our sovereignty and restore our borders. We will always put America first. We have to put America first. We will take back our country, and together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy with Bobby again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. We will make America free again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Michigan. God bless you. God bless you.